over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've found myself investing a good bit of time getting re-engaged with the red pill community, because not so much that I'm a red pill advocate so much as I know that a lot of the guys who come to me, my clients, a lot of the guys who watch my videos, you guys are fans of the red pill way of thinking. And so I want to be sure that I'm well connected to what's guiding people right now. And obviously I've been paying very close attention to Andrew Tate. I've spent a good bit of time watching a number of his videos, as he's been a rising star within that community. And obviously, just like a week ago, he's been arrested now. And it's interesting because when I first heard those charges of sex trafficking, my brain immediately thought, what the heck? I mean, I don't really like the guy, but he doesn't strike me as someone who's going to get involved in sex trafficking the way that I was thinking about it. And as it turns out, I've done a little bit of looking into it, and what he's been doing, which you probably know by now, at least what he's alleged to do, but he's kind of admitted to a lot of it, is getting women to fall in love with him, convincing them to go to another country, going through a recruitment process with someone else to get the women to do sex tapes, which they wouldn't otherwise probably want to do. That's the process, and he's doing that in a foreign country. He's evading tax. I guess that's what he's being accused of, at least, amongst, like, coercing them in a number of ways. So I look at that and I think, oh, okay, well, technically that is sex trafficking, but it's not what I was thinking about when originally I heard the charges. But here's the thing. Even if we took off the sex trafficking charge, right, and we forgot about the criminal aspect of this, when I look at what he's doing, right, getting someone to fall in love with you so that you can recruit them to do a thing to make money for you, but the thing they're doing isn't a thing they would want to do unless they felt they were in love with you. This is all stuff he's admitted to publicly. At the very least, isn't that really morally right? Like, I know a lot of you may look at this and think, well, the women had free choice, right? They had free choice that was up to them. Why is he being charged? Okay, you can say all that. I'm not going to touch that argument yet, even though I disagree with it. But if you guys watching me, could you tell me that you would be capable of going out there, meeting a woman, getting her to actually fall in love with you, and then coerce her to do something she doesn't want to do? Right? Because that's really what we're talking about. Whether it's a criminal charge or not, that is really morally questionable. I think you'd have to jump through a lot of logical loopholes to not make that a grade A-hill thing to do. And I think in many ways, this is why I wanted to talk about his arrest. Not because I wanted everyone to know my position on it, but because I think it ties back to the red pill community and some of the concerns that I have and some of the things that I think, you guys watching who may be big fans of the community need to start to think about. Because let me use an example. When I first got involved in the pickup artist community way back in like the early 2000s, the game had just come out, mystery method was all the rage, and style was a rising star. One of the mindsets was we should look to the guy who has the most success with women of all the guys we possibly know and mimic what he does. The difficulty with that mindset was that what you ended up doing was trying to mimic guys who were narcissistic, as in clinically narcissistic behavior, and we're trying to mimic those to pick up women. Now, the problem with doing that is narcissists are not emotionally happy people. They're not emotionally healthy or happy. They have a constant need to exert control over other people to bolster their sense of self-worth, right? Which is a horrible sense of self-worth. But they do everything they can to make it look like they're confident and to try to control other people and keep people around them who will do their bidding to keep bolstering them up. That's part of the dark triad behavior patterns. And obviously I can't diagnose Tate, but I'm pretty sure he falls somewhere in the dark triad of behaviors because of the simple lack of empathy that he's exhibiting towards the women that he's been using. Again, whether you call it a criminal act or not, there's a massive lack of empathy that had to be present for him to do that. And so, yeah, guys were trying to mimic this narcissistic behavior, and sure enough, they were developing narcissistic problems. You look at Style from the game, constant emotional upswings and downswings. You read his book called The Truth. You can see he got involved in sex addiction. Mystery, the guy who, one of the major protagonists from the book, The Game, had massive emotional issues, up and down, crashing with his emotions. I saw it a lot in the pickup artist community, especially in those early days, right? Because when you mimic behavior that's poor for your health to get a result, it's still poor for your health, and there's still an offshoot. And so I'm talking about all this because I think that there's been a lot of idolization of people who are themselves quite emotionally unhealthy, and Andrew Tate's a great example of that. Now, I don't want to bag out the whole red pill community because I think the premise of it is great. I think men in general are being massively disempowered in ways that most women do not appreciate yet. And I think men need some support. And men need a space where they can feel empowered. But the problem is that not all things that empower you are good for you. In fact, most things that empower you are bad for you. And that's a thing that most people don't realize, right? Men who beat their wives feel empowered when they're doing it. Men who shoot up steroids feel empowered when they're doing it. Dictators feel empowered when they're doing it, right? School shooters spend their whole lives feeling disempowered. They walk into that school with a gun, like, yeah, now who matters? Now who do you care about, right? Now who are you going to listen to, right? He feels empowered, right? Now, I know these are extreme examples, but the truth of the matter is there's a whole bunch of things you could do to feel more empowered. And only a tiny sliver of them are actually going to be emotionally healthy for you and others and society in the long run, right? And this is really what we should, all of us, be moving towards. What is healthy for me and the world I live in, right? Because there's very little that would be healthy for you and not others, honestly. And there's always some sort of long-term feedback loop. And I think that's the problem. And it's the same thing with extreme feminists. I'm not sort of having a go just to red pill guys. No, again, when I say red pill, it's such a big community. There are some really great guys with really healthy mindsets within that community. But it's not the norm, and it's certainly not the most of the guys who are idolized within that space. And Andrew Tate is a perfect example. And so, I don't want to convince guys that red pill is evil and that you should walk away. But I think we need to be a little bit more critical, or a lot more critical, about who we decide to follow and what we decide to just absorb as the truth. I've listened to Andrew Tate, and there are times when I hear him say things and my gut goes, oh, that felt right. That felt true. Hallelujah. Someone's saying this, right? I know that feeling because I've had it. But then he keeps talking, and there's this really strong undercurrent of resentment or complete lack of empathy for women, right? And it comes through in so much of what he says, and it comes through in a lot, not all, but a lot of the red pill literature that I read. There's this lack of empathy towards women, right? Because in many ways, red pill or the men's movement has been born of anger and resentment, right? Just like the feminist movement originally was born of anger and resentment. And the more extremist the feminist, generally speaking, the more anger and resentment she's holding on to, right? And so we've got to be careful because we don't want to use that to just have a lack of empathy. Because I promise you guys, what is good for you long term, what is going to make you the most emotionally happy long term, is also likely to help women. Right? Just because men are hurting doesn't mean women aren't either, right? And I don't think anybody benefits from trying to have this dick measuring contest, like who suffers more, men or women. What it helps you to understand is that just like Jordan Peterson might say in the 1850s, just because women's lives were crap doesn't mean men's lives were any better, because they certainly weren't. Men's lives were just as crap in the 1850s. The average man, right? His life sucked. And it's kind of the same here. Just because men's lives suck doesn't mean women are wandering around having this fantastic time in life. They're not. Spend any time with women and you'll clearly see women are suffering. And likely the solution you'll generally find is the thing that works for you will also make women's lives better, and vice versa. And I think that if you want to be someone in the red pill community, that's fine, but you need to remember to have empathy that there's another side to the story. You've been hurt by women. You've been hurt by the feminine. You've been hurt by a lot of the really extreme left-wing stuff, some of which is going on in the society at the moment. And I get that. But I think to just demonize that and assume that it's all rubbish and all evil and all bad because it's hurt you is where red pill movement gets a lot of... It leads itself towards a dangerous way of thinking, right? Because you just look at the other as evil, as bad. Just like feminists do, like the patriarchy. It's evil, it's bad. Male masculinity, it's evil, it's bad. It's this whole thing of trying to demonize the thing that's hurt you instead of understanding it and trying to work with it. Anyway, I don't want this to be too much of a rant. I think that it is important to acknowledge that even though I'm not a red pill guy myself, there is good stuff in there. And I think the intention of the community is really positive. And I would like to either help men in that community have a healthier outlook about life and about themselves while still seeking the truth, and recognize that, yes, men really are being hurt in a number of ways. And yes, society is unfair towards men. And yes, we do need to do something about it, but from a healthier vantage point. And if not, that's fine. I'm happy to have a discussion with any of the guys in the comments below. If you just sort of have a go at me, have a dig about something childish, fine, I'm going to ignore it. But I'm always open to dialogue on this topic because it is something that I take very seriously, and I am open to changing my mind. And I invest some serious time trying to understand where you guys are coming from. This is not just kind of a flippant thing that I do. You know, some people, they don't really understand the community, they don't really understand what's going on. I've invested some serious time, so always happy to have a discussion in the comments below. As always, guys, if you like this video, if you think I've got something interesting to say, smash the like button and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in my future videos.